So we're doing a little panel here since we all teach manifesting in various ways. And one thing that has come up with every single one of the people have been talking about is this 0 to 7 or 0 to 8. And now going back to conception or embryo, and like with Taoism and medical Qigong, we say, you choose your parents for the lessons you're going to get in life, whether it's how to bake a cake or throw a ball, or how to forgive someone for, being abusive, or, you know, not giving you love, or being too loving, smothering, whatever it is. I just want to ask Chris, because I come from kind of a Christian, Taoist, Hindu, and Buddhist perspective, and I feel like Carmel, you're coming from indigenous and spiritual background, not necessarily Christian. Christian is part of my description of how I say. But Chris, you come from Christian, right? You're coming from Christian perspective.
Mhm.
What is Christianity? I don't know. Thinking about Christianity, how do they talk about that, and birth and that part of someone's
Well, let
makeup?
me just say that what was offered to me as a young girl and what I consented to accept were not the same thing. I always was very curious and I always had questions. I questioned everything that was ever told to me because a skill set that I learned now is truly an asset is looking for the inconsistencies. That's how I was like, oh, that's when something's inconsistent, when somebody says something and they do a different action, something's not right. There's a misalignment. And so that's how I've been able to cope and adapt and to like just kind of let things sit until I get new information that allows me to draw a conclusion. So there's a lot of curiosity in the world, and one of them is around Christianity, particularly dogma and how it's delivered and how the people around us use that for their advantage, to potentially control people, and also throw judgment in there. Judgment, as we know, and shame are the lowest vibrating energies that exist on the frequency. And when it's judgment and shame is mixed in with your raising and your behaviors, and when you grow up with shame being thrown at you, how shame on you, how dare you, um, that sets us up for a lifetime of stuff we got to clean up. So what's interesting is I love that I've been able to release the dogma. I kept the love humankind, be a good, kind human being, and karma. Now I can use that language because I consider myself more spiritual. Um, and when we study Buddha, we study Hinduism, we study Tao, we study all these different. I like to call myself a daughter of universal wisdom because that's really what it is. It's universal wisdom that allows us to learn how to treat humankind better, but also treat ourselves because we are our number one human. To be a good human means we also, to be integrity, we have to treat ourselves like a good human as well and stop being an asshole to ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the biggest thing with the self-worth and the self-love. These festivals is treating ourselves as divine, because we are. And whatever spiritual path, if you're Christian, we're children of God. If we're believing in universe, we're fragments of divine light. However you look at it, I mean, it's milk. However you call it, you either drink it cold or hot, or in tea, or make ice cream from it. It's all the sacred part. And I think when I was asking about the Christian perspective, because I was feeling like I thought that I remembered you being Christian, like as your main thing, was just that Christianity doesn't, in my understanding, talk too much about you know, the birth as part of who you are. I mean, Jesus is very much about forgiveness, like that's part of the, and loving your neighbor as yourself, which I always say, all these people hate themselves. So what is that doing us? in the
Mhm.
world. Yeah, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, I don't love myself, so I'm treating people badly. But I really, that's a big part, I think, of manifesting is really loving ourselves, starting with really loving ourselves. And I think being, having abuse is, when we grow up or not feeling loved, sets us up for, well, if this other person doesn't love me, or if this other person isn't treating me well, especially if they're the parent or the caregiver, it gives us this worthless feeling, or there's something wrong with me if that person isn't, giving me all the love and respect that other people had from their parents, going into the comparison part or comparison judgment. And I think that is a big gift to grow and evolve. That's the lesson we came here to do. However, going back like and looking at it and saying, oh, that happened. I didn't even remember that happened. Like having this guide, the way you guided us was great. Like something I didn't think of to think about was great, because then I was like, oh, there's something more to heal from, because it's all about growing. And the more you can see, because some people are not ready to see yet. I'll work with clients and I'll see stuff and they haven't remembered it. And I can't tell them until they tell me themselves. I don't want to shock someone. Um, but yeah, I like how you had explained it. Um, Carmel, what would you say one of the biggest, when you talk to us about, you know, limiting beliefs, what is the biggest one you hear from people that they're unable to, they have a limited belief about?
We're speaking about abundance. Pretty much everyone has a poverty mindset. Like, I don't know one single person in my circle who, even myself, like, I manifest millions of dollars, but I only do it in a tribal well, I don't only do it. I mostly do it in a tribal space. See, I don't, yeah, it's only been a practice of my own that I've really wanted to be abundant in my own business. And I've always grown up thinking you had to benefit the tribe or your family. So, and I'm pretty spectacular in that area. So, but all of us have it. And I just don't know. I'd love to meet someone who doesn't have it. But that is part of the actually, even, and I was just thinking, some of my favorite manifestors are Esther and Jerry Hicks. And Jerry Hicks had to get over his own abundance block because he had this belief that rich people were just not nice people, and if you were rich, you were not nice. So he had to take on that because one of his mentors said to him, "You're never going to be rich because you have a block." So I think there's probably as many as 55 abundance blocks that most of us have. And if you really go into them, we were just even statements like money doesn't grow on trees, being humble, all of this stuff, we have so many things that we just have to confront and smash. And just one other thing I really wanted to add, because Chris, this might really help you, but I really learnt my manifesting practice really up leveled when I started and I read every single one of his 15 books. Neville Goddard, he's the king of manifesting. He also changed my relationship with the Bible, because I was brought up a Jehovah's Witness, and we had some pretty severe judgment, and including those cracks when only the
I've read the whole collection. So yes, I know exactly where you're coming from.
yeah, so he really changed my entire view of the Bible, because Jesus
Yes.
Christ is our imagination and God is, the quantum. And it's up to us to it's up to us to do our work. It's up to us to believe and believe and believe and do our revision. So he's probably of everyone. I mean, I wish that if I got to meet one person, if I could bring him back, I'd love to meet him.
Yeah. So I went to Greece 2 years ago, and I went back and restudied the Greek mythology, right? All the stories. So I used to know in school, I knew all the major gods right, the men and the women, the gods that in Greek and Roman mythology. And it always fascinated me. And so when I got to Greece, I got to embody a little bit of that, the mythology and the culture. And so I read the Neville Goddard book maybe a year later, and he's talking about the disciples in the Bible and how all of these figures, how we're told and conditioned that we are made out of God's image, when in fact God is made out of our image.
Yeah.
Right. And the gods are made out of the human psyche in all the different ways that we show up. And it's like, we're all the gods, all of us. Which one do we want to embody today? And what made me understand that was somebody asked me, well, who's your alter ego? When you're in Greece, who do you want your alter ego to be? And at that time I was saying, well, love is my superpower. So I'm thinking, okay, Aphrodite must be my alter ego. But then I'm sitting in front of the library of Apollo and Athena there in Athens. I'm looking at this huge, amazing, beautiful marble statue of Athena. It's like, but I also identify with her as being a protector and a warrior. Why do I have to pick just one god? No, that's not the point. We get to be all of them, depending on who we need to be at any moment in time. It's like, okay, I get it now.
And if you learn astrology, what you will learn is we have each of the 12 signs in our birth chart. And like Athena is Pallas, the asteroid, and that's an amazing energy to step into. But we actually have all of this in our chart, and we also have the physical realms, 6 of them underneath the line of horizon, because your chart is a circle, and the 6 houses above are the universal, and you have 12 realms or 12 heavens, and each of the zodiac signs. So what you're talking about, you definitely do need to get into learning astrology, because it really, and if you know the Greek gods, it's very easy, because Zeus is my ruler, the sun, and Poseidon is Neptune, and it just it carries on. So it's we do get to choose who. The states of like I think of the gods or the zodiac energies as states of consciousness, and it really helps me to confront my own limited beliefs, because I basically race around. That patience, Amber, is a real struggle for me. So the state of consciousness that I most prefer is peace and calm, and then moving to the other. So I always start with those first, and that's really hard because I don't ever stop. But it's the state of consciousness that you say, I want this state, and then I want this state, and I want this state. And then when you get consistency with those, then everything starts to just happen around you without you even doing anything. So it's a work in progress, and I have many things to learn. But I do like to, I'm like you, I love the signs. I just love anything that represents consciousness. The gods are consciousness. Jesus Christ is our imagination. It's 90% of our mind. Our logical mind is just 10%. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause this real quick.